Great to see you, Anthony Melchiori.
The total eclipse of the heart.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live.
That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Everyone, thank you for watching No Vacancy Live. But as you suspected with Anthony Sly reference, we're recording this the day of the eclipse, but not running it on the day of the eclipse. So I hope we survived and society didn't fall apart.
Yeah. So what do you think? Where are you watching it from?
I don't know, but I think I'm going to go put on a Bonnie Tyler record really quick. So I can.
You have, of course, you know that reference. And do you have the glasses?
Well, I got my mom's cataract glasses, so I don't know if that's gonna work or not. Yeah, I'm gonna like peek up and then turn away real quick, but we're not in the direct cover area.
You sound like a guy from Long Island, like that lives with his mother. I got my mother's cataract glasses.
I really do. Although we did go out to a nice dinner last night at 5 p.m. because that's what we do at this age.
You know, it's interesting. I look to go to dinner now at 5 o'clock. I'm like, Can we go to dinner at 5? They're like, it's 5 o'clock. Like my friends are like 5 o'clock. I was like, yeah. Like at 5 o'clock. Let's go to 5 o'clock.
Well, like, Anthony, we're not the only ones that think that way. In fact, I've read an article recently that younger generations, and I'm talking Gen X, we're Gen X, sorry, Gen Z even, they're doing like early dinners because everybody just wants to get to bed earlier. Something happened with COVID that changed everybody's lifestyles, and everybody likes to party it up a little bit earlier.
I just think everybody wants to get to TikTok. That's it.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. But I'm thinking that they probably want to stay in another hotel. And that's why we're going to bring back our friend Dan Lesser from LW Hospitality Advisors to talk all about how he sees the industry. What do you think about that, Anthony?
I don't know. Does Dan know anything about this industry?
Dan, do you know anything about this industry? First question to you.
A teeny bit.
All right. So we're going to test that today. Going back a few weeks from before we're recording this Hunter Hotel Investment Conference, I heard the similar message, Dan, that I heard during Alice back in January. People are feeling a little bit better. They're feeling a little bit more confident about where things are going, particularly as we go through the end of the year for the opportunities for development. Plus, they're feeling like, yes, there is still room in order to raise those rates, creating a pretty decent scenario overall, even set against the backdrop of inflation that's still not really completely gone and higher interest rates that we're hoping are still going to be lowered. How is that assessment kind of go in line with what you're seeing, experiencing, and feeling out there?
Well, first of all, great to see you gentlemen again, and thanks for the invite to join. We definitely are living in some very interesting times, and yes, I would concur with the sentiment that you picked up, that generally it's looking positive. But when you look on a micro level, demand is softening a tad. And the challenge is that domestic travelers have pulled back from a leisure perspective, and that phenomenon is due to several reasons. A lot of them are traveling overseas now that COVID is theoretically all behind us.
Yep. But
additionally, the U.S. consumer is feeling a little bit uneasy. You mentioned interest rates. Are we going to see a reduction in interest rates? Many say so, but when you look at inflation, it's been pretty sticky, and the jobs reports have been really strong, and so there is an argument that interest rates will not necessarily come down. I'm not an economist, so I can't opine either way, but that is a big sort of question mark that both on the transaction side as well as on the demand side is a huge question and issue.
And also right now, American credit card debt is the highest it's ever been, dramatically higher.
Correct.
Do you think that plays into it?
Of course. And if you want to add to that, delinquencies on auto loans is really shot up as well. So yes, the U.S. consumer is definitely under pressure, but let's also not forget that the U.S. consumer is famous for spending money even when they don't have it and can't afford it.
All right, quick little factoid. According to moneymetals.com, household debt topped $17.5 trillion as this article was published in February 8th, with the last quarter raising another $212 billion.
Is that for just the people who driving the brand new BMWs?
I think it also. I think it also goes out to McLarens and Infinities as well.
I have a daughter that thinks anybody that has a nice car is a billionaire. And somebody once said, actually, somebody that I know, he said, you can fake a Lambo, but you can't fake a private plane. So if you see a Lambo, you never know. But if he has a private plane, he's probably got some cash in the bank. But yeah, and like I was just at a company that I consult for, and I was talking to a gentleman that's part owner of the company, and I said, "What are you doing?" And he was looking into a screen, and he goes, "Trying to find money." And I'm looking at the screen. I go, "I don't see any." He goes, and they have hotels, they have Class A credit, they have major equity in their properties, and they're everybody that everybody wants to lend money to, and they're still having trouble finding money for the project at a reasonable rate.
We're talking about new construction or existing properties?
New construction.
Yeah, new construction. I mean, there is money out there for the right projects, but it needs to be proven to be economically viable.
Can you help this client if I put you guys together?
Love to talk to them. Be delighted to.
Okay.
Be delighted to. Just sort of dialing back the conversation a second to demand. These sort of one-time phenomena, whether it be Taylor Swift, the Super Bowl, or
as of today's recording, the eclipse.
Correct. Right. I mean, these have been tremendous, booms for the lodging sector. But again, they're sort of one and done. But a lot of these events seem to become turning into phenomena that people don't want to miss the experience and are willing to pay dear dollars to participate.
Let me ask you a question. This is a question that I shied away from for years, and I poo-pooed it for many, many years. But I can't speak to anyone that's going on vacation that's not renting an Airbnb. I literally, everybody I know in every economic level, everybody, I was like, as a matter of fact, last night I was talking to somebody, I was like, I can't talk to you anymore because I'm in the hotel business. Stop.
And I think when people say Airbnb, they mean just participating in the vacation rental sector.
Yeah. So it's, to me, like, I've never seen this many people that I personally know, because the people I know are hotel people.
Right.
And they're all using, when they go on family vacations, they're all using that type of environment for their travel. Is it finally starting to catch up to us in a real way?
I don't believe so, candidly.
I don't either, but it just seems like everybody's using them.
If you would have asked me, I just went on a family vacation 3 weeks ago, and we stayed at a traditional resort. Listen, we've all experienced vacation rentals, if you will.
Yeah.
And the fact is, it tends to be hit or miss, right? When you show up, there's always that anxiety when you put the key in the door before you've seen it and you walk in, and what are you going to end up with? And I'm sure I've experienced, some decent rentals, and I've also experienced some horrible ones. And at this juncture, I personally would not do a vacation rental.
Me either. And you know what's interesting is, 20 years ago, you could say the same thing about the hotel business. It's hit or miss. You really could. Until that one brand, we'll name anonymous, threw out all those people out of their chain and said, you know what, we'll lose money this year, but we've got to get straight with our franchisees. And then everybody followed suit. And I think that was the best moment in our industry in a long time, that everybody started to look out for the guest, and they were probably looking out for their bottom line, but it really impacted the guests. So it's really hard to find a bad hotel. You have to really go out of your way to get a bad hotel, because that means you didn't look at the internet, you didn't look at reviews, and you didn't stay with the major brands, because 80% of the hotels are owned by brands, and most of those hotels are good. And so we fixed that problem, it seems.
Generally, but there are some that are not so good. I will not name names, but I stayed at a hotel recently in Orlando that, aside from branded hotel, major brand, aside from being in extremely poor condition, the hotel, the internet service was broken apparently for a few days, and they were like, "Sorry, we're trying to work on it, but we don't have internet."
But that's like not having water or electricity.
It was mind-boggling. The hotel was packed. It was full. and they didn't have internet. I ended up checking out and going to an AC hotel nearby, and it was the first AC that I've come across that was a conversion. I hadn't seen a conversion before. Everyone, I like AC. Everyone I've stayed in previously was fairly new construction. So, but it was interesting. The converted AC, you could tell there was a little bit of sort of lipstick on the pig, if you will.
But AC does a nice job. AC does a nice job.
Yeah, yeah. Your point's well taken, but there's still no shortage of hotels in America that need a renovation.
But it used to be dramatically. And listen, I made a living for 12 years chasing those hotels down that left the brand and thought they can do it on their own. And now most of those brands have been reconverted into other brands. And there are a couple of brands I like to get my hands on. There's one brand in particular. Like, give me a year in that brand, and we'll fix some things.
I know what brand you might be talking about.
A new brand? We need new brands.
No, this is a brand. This is a brand that needs a big slap in the back of the head.
Yeah, it's like, hey, recognize what you are. Too. Boom. Yeah. So,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go ahead. It's okay.
I was just going to say, one of the things I love about this business is hotels that know who they are. Like, to your point, Glenn, like, not every hotel is a first-class hotel. Not every hotel is perfect. But if you are who you are and you are who you say you are, then be that, and people will accept that. But if you're trying to punch up in weight, but you don't have the right hook to kind of support that, just be who you say you are. And and when people say who they are, where they say believe them, there's a couple of brands, one in particular, that has not been able to get out of their own way for a very, very long time, and we all know who they are. And I swear, I've told this to Glenn. If that job ever comes my way, that's the one job I would take. It would either ruin my name or it would say, "Oh, okay, the crazy guy could do it." But the brand needs a big swift kick in the ass.
It'll be the last thing you do before you retire, and then you won't have to worry about the ramifications.
It's kind of what he wants to do. He wants to
wait. I have to come out of retirement to do this?
Yeah. That's hysterical. So, Dan, you're right. There is a little bit mismatch of product, but we're kind of at that time in the cycle right now where a lot of the major hotel companies are starting to focus on conversions because they're well aware of the problem you just mentioned, getting new buildings out of the ground. That's why we've seen brands like IHG's Garner, for example, which I think opened up their fourth property the week before we're recording this, for example. How do you see the conversion side of the business really starting to maybe pick up right now and kind of supplement development that we're not going to see on the new property business?
I mean, it's clearly happening. There's no question about that. On the one hand, on the other hand, I've been pretty vocal about this, and I still feel very strongly that there are way too many brands in the hotel business out there. I've spoken with franchise sales folks who have acknowledged off the record that they couldn't tell you the difference between A and B.
For sure. That's why in 2019, the word of the year I called swim lanes, because the brands were at the time trying to convince themselves that there were strong delineations between them. The problem that the hotel industry has not come to grips with yet is that they still don't see their offerings the way consumers see them. And we will say, well, this is obviously this segment, and this is obviously this segment. Consumers don't know the difference between most segments in the industry. They could probably go economy, luxury, and whatever's in between, and some have ballrooms, right?
I moderated a panel, so it is in the public domain on the one hand. On the other hand, I'm not going to name names.
Yeah, of course.
Where I posed a question of how does a brand family decide to come up with a new brand? And the answer in this forum, where 300 people were in attendance, by one of the franchise sales folks was, well, when we run out of geography, to
totally. Well, that's
the truth. A new brand. And if you think about it, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, listen, first of all, if you want to see Glenn's eye twitch, look after I say this, his eyes are going to start twitching. I don't call them brand companies. Let me first say brands have been really, really important to the industry, and they're really good, and they do a lot for the owners, and thank God for them.
And I'm sure you're making an observation based on the fact that a lot of these are public companies and they need to keep increasing
right.
their
But brands are amazing, and what's happened in the last 20 years with brands, I'm a big brand supporter. I really am. But let's call it what it is. They're not brand companies anymore. They're fee companies. Okay, they're based. They're making their living based on fees. And when you go during the pandemic, and they have to really cut. And you're hearing now that friends of mine that had 10 hotels as regionals or 20 hotels, however many hotels they had, and now they have 5 times as many. And I talked to people. Literally spoke to somebody, let's say Monday, Friday, that literally could not get a call back from their representative of their brand for weeks. Could not get a call back. And this is a major player in the industry, an owner, and they could not get a call back. And I know if the owner called them, they would have got a call back. But this was a regional guy calling his regional guy, and it's just beyond my ability to comprehend that the rubber is going to hit the road at some point.
right.
I don't know when that is, but kind of like the third parties, the hotels and Expedias, the brands have spent so much money on getting these premier loyal cards into their brand that's their value. So whether it be, and I don't want to name any of them, but any of those loyalty brands, that's their value, and that's all their value. Because those people are looking for those nights. And I have somebody that I know that's only buying hotels or only doing new build in areas that they know they can generate X amount of rooms, 140 rooms at 87% occupancy or whatever occupancy it is that the loyalty brand gives them the full night's rate. They're only building hotels based on that. That's phenomenal for them, but but that's what it's come down to.
And a lot of the major brands are delivering 50% or more room nights right out of the gate. Dan, you want to?
Yeah, let's also not forget that the notion of independent hotels,
Yep.
Is 30 years ago, the notion of an independent hotel was that it was a dying breed, right? That's not the case anymore. And now in many situations, you have a new independent hotel come on the market, and all of a sudden this new hotel is a new brand.
Exactly right. And that's when you say new. It's actually, I'm seeing an increase in independent hotels knowing they can attach to a brand, which has been genius from the brands, which I fully support. When I ran the Algonquin and we turned it around, and after a couple of years, I got a call and say, hey, they're going to an autograph. What do you think? And I was like, oh my God, it's the best thing that ever happened to the Algonquin. And it's the best thing that's ever happened to the Algonquin because they're still who they are. Let's talk about the Oak Room. They shut the Oak Room. I'm still in mourning over it. But besides that, the hotel looks better than it's ever looked. And it's doing as better as it's ever done. It's as good as it's ever done. And thank God for the autograph collection. So that's really, and for by and large, they really do keep these hotels independent outside of like doing shit that really kind of, that saves a lot of money. And like they did some things that I don't agree with. But by and large, as long as it keeps those hotels going, those 100-year-old hotels going, it's really, really, I think that's been phenomenal. So it's really hard to find an independent hotel that's truly independent.
It's interesting. You mentioned fees. I just came across an article, and I don't remember specifically which hotel. I think it was on Skift about a hotel in Manhattan now charging a curation fee.
Yes. That's what they're calling the resort fee at this particular property. I saw that article the other day.
Yeah. I mean, but it's interesting. Resort fee, destination fee, urban fee, junk fees, right? It's
I want to know what hotel that is. So if you don't,
I called the Curse Anthony fee.
Text me the fee.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, I'll tell you that SOB that started the resort fees 25 years ago. He should be shot and killed.
Who is that?
Anthony Melchior.
Yeah. Yes,
At the Nickelodeon Resort, we had 100,000 square foot of pools. We had slides. We had pop-up entertainment. We had real add-ons for free. So when we came up with, I think it was a $15 fee because when I took over, they were in trouble. And it worked, and people didn't care. But now you're getting fees. People are giving you fees, and they're saying, "So why are you giving me fees?" for newspapers and 1-800 calls and local calls. It's like, okay, come on, the jig's up, man. No one's reading newspapers and no one's making local phone calls, but it's still on their backing up their resort fee. So I will fortunately, but I also added to this. I also added to the hotels by making Gilchrist and Soames come up with the flip tops and shampoos. So when you see those flip tops, you can thank me.
By the way, there's no such thing as anything free in this world.
No.
Yeah.
No.
When people talk, the free breakfast, there's no free breakfast. You're paying for it somehow.
No, we're not charging you to be on the podcast, so that's free.
How do you know an invoice is not in the mail?
Yeah. That is very true. So Dan, so where do you think the smart money is this year?
The smart money is buying existing properties, because generally speaking, they can be acquired for below replacement cost.
It's something like Tyler Morse has been up to for the last couple of few.
Very much so. It's, exactly. I like to look at his acquisition of the Sheraton Times Square as sort of a poster child for acquiring something way below replacement cost. He bought that for $200,000 a key. Now, it's a monster hotel in terms of size. So the total dollar amount was $373 million.
It's got to be something like 1,700 rooms, give or take, or something.
Correct. But at $200,000 a room, for all intents and purposes, the way I look at it is he bought an option. Yeah. Because how much lower can the value of that hotel ever go? I mean, the land.
But as a person that's been working in the trenches in New York City for 30 years, when you take into account, and I'm a union supporter, but when you take into account all the union fees, when you take into account the location, the taxes, everything that hotel, you have to sell out the conferences 24/7 just to run that place. You can get those rooms for free. You can literally give that hotel to somebody for $1. Is it still worth it? Because of where it is, because of how much it costs to run a room, is it worth it? So yes, it's very, very, it's a great buy, especially if you know what the hell you're doing. But it's still, I would still take a 175 room, no food and beverage, no banquet space in New York City over any hotel. Because that hotel, if you're making $30 million gross, you're throwing $16 million to the bottom line.
Listen, at the right basis, everything works.
Right. And is it at the right basis though? That 200,000 a key, I agree with you, but I don't know. I don't know what the nut is to keep that thing going.
If I had a guess today, it's worth more than 200,000 a key. If I had a guess,
safe guess.
Coming back to Glenn, your question about smart money.
Yes.
And this is a little counterintuitive, and I will tell you, I get a lot of pushback from folks, but I am a huge fan of San Francisco at the right basis.
You're not the first person to say that.
On a long-term basis. Yep. It's not going to get better tomorrow. It's not going to get better next year, but San Francisco is a beautiful city. It's a world-class city. It's a gateway to Asia. And I firmly believe that unless you think it's literally going to fall into the Pacific Ocean, San Francisco is going to come back. It has a boom and bust reputation when you look back over decades. Again, at the right basis, I think you're going to see those two hotels that Park Hotels and Resorts walked away from, right? Whoever comes in and takes those over at a significantly reduced basis, I think is going to do very well if they are ready, willing, and able, if need be, to hold on for at least 10 years. Now they may come back in 5 years, but they have to be ready, willing, and able to hold for 10 years. And if you pay market and you're willing to hold on for 10 years if need be, it's kind of hard to lose.
Well, they're starting to make some progress in some of these ridiculous laws. They're starting to back up the laws. They're starting to kind of get away from defund the police. They're starting to kind of really realize that they're out of their minds, and they kind of they're refocusing their efforts because they're seeing everybody pull out. People are walking away from everything. So I agree with that. And not to go back to the Sheraton, but let's go back for a second. I agree with you 100%. If you're willing to lose money for a period of time on a hotel like that, then of course it's worth more than 200,000. But if you remember, before COVID, everybody blames. There's two hotels in Times Square that went belly up, and they blame COVID. They were belly up before COVID. COVID was just an excuse
Right.
to move forward. So those hotels are very scary. And as you know, those are very, and you know them a lot better than me because you do this on a daily basis. But those are scary hotels at any basis, just because this the swings. Out of nowhere, you can owe the union or back pay $50 million. Look what happened at the Hilton Hotel when somebody was screwing around with the banquet fees, and then the union got wise, and I'm glad they did, and they got what, $30-40 million in back fees, and changed the landscape of the banquets in New York City. So it's always a little scary. That's all
But
I'm
if you
saying.
look at the fundamentals of New York, I mean, what a comeback, right? 4 years ago, last month, right, was the beginning of COVID, and the world and New York led the charge in terms of being decimated, not just in the lodging sector, right?
Yep.
Look at where New York is today. I mean, clearly we have challenges vis-a-vis crime and homelessness and things like that, but for the hotel market is
Yep.
incredibly
It's the
robust.
greatest city in the world for a reason.
And San Francisco, 5 years from now, is going to be the same thing.
I
If it
agree with
happens, if it happens, remember you heard it here first. If it doesn't
No,
happen,
no,
forget
I-
it.
Yeah, forget about it.
I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. But you have to be a real investor with real big cash, and you have to understand the vision. And if you're a player for 15, 20 years, you're going to make 20 times on your money. I can't agree. Same thing with the Sheraton. I can't agree with you more. But you can't be, you can't be an amateur. Yeah. First of all, the amateurs that come, have you ever met an amateur that's coming into this business that didn't hire your company or a company like you that made it? No. I have never met anyone that owned 20 Dunkin' Donuts, came in, bought a hotel, and was successful without hiring you or me or someone that knows what the hell they're doing. And then when they do, and if they have the cash, they can make a lot of money. But so many people come in and think this is easy.
We refer to those folks very respectfully as newbies to the hotel space, and we love them.
Yep.
I call them clueless newbies to those hotel space.
Hey, well, it's
No,
good. It's a great
no,
opportunity for Dan and his team to educate them.
no, I love them too. And listen,
Yep.
they're a big part of my consulting,
Totally.
my business. But I love them. But it's just, this is a very, I always say this is the most complicated, easy business
Right.
you'll ever find.
Well, it's one of those things where you think you know what to do because everyone experiences hotels and feels at home with hotels. So it really obfuscates the clear view of what you don't know kind of thing. Dan, we talked about where the smart money is, but can you give us an example of where you think there might be some group think that's coming in on the erroneous side out there? Because I find there's not a lot of critical thinking. A lot of people just repeat back what the CEOs say on the main stage at the conference and take that as sacrosanct.
I'm not following. What's the question?
Is there any type of group think out there you think that's heading people in the wrong direction? And they should
Is there any dumb money going in?
yeah.
There's always dumb money going into the hotel space. There's no question about that. Coming back to newbies who refuse. They're smart and sophisticated, but not when it comes to hotels. And so those folks are always out there. Listen, at the end of the day, we are seeing a tremendous amount of capital coming into to look for investment opportunities in the hotel sector, and a lot of those folks are first-time buyers. So invariably, Anthony, like you said, if they don't end up hiring experts like you, me, they end up making mistakes, and so. I do see some dumb money coming in there, but generally speaking, I think folks with the transparency and availability of data these days in the lodging sector, I think for the most part, people are making smart decisions.
And you know what? When you do pay an expert, and your company's been doing this a long time, you guys are the best there is. That money is well spent because there's not 6,000 decisions you have to make.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 or 4 really big decisions that you have to make to be successful as you start. If you make those 3 or 4 really big decisions well, everything else is going to work out. But if you make one of those decisions poorly, the other 2 or 3 decisions don't matter because you just made a really bad decision. Would it be a brand? Would it be? It's just so many factors into it, and over a cup of coffee, you can give them advice, literally over a cup of coffee. and say, do these 3 things and you're good. And if you need me again, let me know and hire me again. But and that's like when it comes to other things, like if you look at a restaurant or retail, there are so many things that can derail you. But I always say restaurants and other kind of businesses are, I want that business. I want that steak. I want that hamburger. I want that bagel. Right? In the hotel business, I need to be in New York next week. So I need to stay in the hotel. I need to go to Vegas. So I need to stay in the hotel. This is a need-based business. So if you understand that and you focus on that and you focus in on the right location with an expert, you can't lose. Almost can't lose.
It's interesting in the professional services world. It really kind of doesn't matter what you do. A lot of traditional professional services, I think you gentlemen know, we do a fair number of valuations and appraisals, right? Accounting, law, architects. A lot of these services end up becoming commoditized and fee driven, right? Low bidder wins type of mentality.
Yep.
Anthony, what you're talking about is real advice that when you're able to show clients how much money you can save them, or you have saved them or earned them, depending on how they want to look at it, professional fees become a secondary issue. So it's a great business to be in, where you're providing real solid advice that you can then look back and measure and show how much you made and or saved them.
Listen, there are things that in your company, or for all the years you've been doing it, people still have to learn. And that in itself is valuable, right? Especially if people that have been doing this as long as we've been doing it think young, right? We have the experience of people that have been doing this for 30, 40 years, but we all think young. The people that I surround myself with, the people you surround, like, look at Evan, your partner. He's like a 12-year-old. He is the youngest thing I've ever met. And he's on fire all the time. And so if you have that experience, but you think today and you're not offended by a young person's opinion, and you're not offended by, okay, this is the way we're doing things now, and you have that experience to keep people out of trouble, I mean, you just win. It's the older people that don't want to change that I don't even look at anymore. It's like, listen, I'm not even going to talk to you. You can't even hire me if you want to, because you're not going to listen to me anyway. It's like you have to have that experience, but you have to understand every 10 years things change. And if you don't want to change with it, good luck and God bless you.
Couldn't agree more.
I love it. So before we wrap up, guys, I do want to say we mentioned Dumb Money. I watched the movie Dumb Money coming back from AHOA on the plane, and it's about the GameStop stock story. I highly recommend it. It's a really good, fun.
I saw that.
Yeah.
And I actually bought one share of it when it all went crazy.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it, but I'm sure I make like $3 or something.
That's awesome. Dan, how can we learn more about you guys over at LW?
You can find us on the web. My email address is dlesser, Lesser, at lwhadvisors, advisors.com. And you can always call. My cell number is 516-456-6959.
So let me ask you before you leave, because I hijacked a big part of this conversation. I didn't mean to. What's one business advice you would give a young person or anybody right now in the business? What's the one piece of advice, if you were coming into business again right now, that served you well? What would it be?
Listen really carefully, and maybe don't talk so much, and don't feel entitled. I find that a lot of young folks feel entitled these days. Everybody needs to and has to pay their dues. The notion of coming out of college and going straight to consulting with no operational experience. I mean, people have done it and they've been successful, but I think there's nothing like actually working in a hotel. So when I graduated hotel school, I then worked for Hilton after graduation at the New York Hilton Hotel across from the Sheraton Times Square. 2,000-room hotel. I went through every sub-department within food and beverage. Then I went through every sub-department within the front office. And then I ended up in the catering sales office. I remember vividly remembering concepts that we talked about in school that when I was in school had no meaning to me. But then when I was in the real world, food costs, beverage costs, labor, whatever, and I was pulling out my textbooks, refreshing my memory, as to what we learned. So
Right.
there's nothing like hands-on experience, and
Yeah.
everybody.
Listen. If you don't know why the housekeepers in the front desk are always at odds, you can't be my consultant.
There you go. There you go.
Yep, you got that right. Dan, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Great to see you.
Appreciate it. It's a fun doing this show with all of you today. And listen, we talked about the real truth of what's going on in the hospitality industry today. So you're probably going to want to re-listen to that. So why not take this moment and subscribe to our audio feed if you're watching this on video? Just text the word hotel to 66866. You got our Sunday night newsletter. You'll get the show. You got every single show that we do out there by doing that. And why not follow us? Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, the YouTube, Instagram. And of course, all of our shows are housed at novacancynews.com. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on, and
Be kind to yourself.
see you all later. Bye.
And one day somebody will explain Stitcher to me.
One day.